And let's just start with the biggest name, Jarvis Landry. Huge money on the books if they keep him, if they don't redo the deal. So I guess we'll play the percentage game here again. Mary Kay, what are the odds that you think Jarvis Landry is in a Browns uniform next year? And what does it take for that to happen?
I'm going to say 50-50 right now.
Okay.
And the reason why I have it even that high at $16.55 million cap hit for next season is because just hearing everybody talk about him at the end of the season, from Alex Van Pelt to Kevin Stefanski to Andrew Berry, he still is in very, very good standing with the club. They like him. They felt that after Odell Beckham Jr. left, that he was still the good soldier, that he, maintained a good attitude. And even though he's 29 and he was injured, I still think that they believe that he is a very good receiver. Now, he might decline a little bit at age 30 next year when he turns 30 in November. But for the most part, I think that if Baker Mayfield does come back and he is the quarterback, there would be some consideration given to keeping Jarvis Landry around, in part because he does have a good chemistry with Baker Mayfield. And I think that 2022, if Baker is here, is going to be all about trying to help him get his confidence back and supply him with people around him that he can function well with. And Jarvis has always been one of those guys for him. So I do think he's got a chance of coming back, but I don't think he was happy with the amount of opportunities that he got, even though we've talked about the fact that his targets really weren't down much from the year before. I mean, they're down from previous years, but pretty similar to last year, I believe. And again, he missed a couple of games with his knee injury. But I think that what it would take is that they might have to think about a restructuring, which could be a win-win for both if they bring the cap number down and give him some more guaranteed money. Then I think he would be up for that. But I think he is also going to want some reassurances that the offense is going to function better and that it's all going to be a little bit more smooth than it was this year, and that he's going to have maybe an opportunity to contribute more than he did. Because I think he fell into that camp of he didn't like the way that this goes. And I actually talked to him about that at his charity event. So so I heard it with my own 2 ears, asked the question myself and got that answer from him. So yeah, that's what I think.
This is a hard one.
Go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say, this is a hard one because obviously he can still play. He's still a productive player, still the best receiver you have on this roster, but they got 28 million in cap space for 2022, which is like middle of the pack. But you have maybe 2 or 3 people you need to sign on the defensive line, depending on how you feel about Jordan Elliott. You might need a new middle linebacker, depending on how you feel about Jacob Phillips, new tight end. It's like if you take all the guys headed for free agency, I went back and added it up. If you take all the guys who were headed for free agency this year, they accounted for about $19 million of cap space this past season. If you were to re-sign all of them, some would get raises, obviously, like Clowney, but that eats into a lot of that 28 million for the coming year. And then you still got the rookie contracts to deal with. So like looking at Landry's deal, no matter how good he is, and you see, well, gee, we have, 28 million of cap space right now. We can have like over 40 if we move on and try to get younger, or maybe get somebody who isn't voicing displeasure about not getting enough targets in this offense that isn't going to get you the kind of targets you may want. So I think ultimately this is just going to be a money thing where you're looking at what you need to do to bring in new players. And if you want to make a big splash at a position, you're going to need the cap space to help do that. And they have lots of holes to fill. 28 million is going to go quick.
So I went lower on this. I'll put it up maybe like 25%. I just think, and again, this is the discussion we're going to have as we go along here. I want to see them make an investment in this position, not just in the draft. I want to see them be aggressive in free agency at this position. And there's some names we'll get into as we go. But like, a guy like a Mike Williams from the Chargers, he's not going to come cheap, but he'd certainly be an upgrade for this team. And then you have to decide, you're gonna have to take some of that money you're paying Jarvis Landry and give it to him. And like you said, Scott, there's other people that you'd have to go pay. I just think we've sort of reached the point now where, you know, as much as I love everything Jarvis has meant to this franchise and everything he does when he's on the field, it's going to be tough to, you know, this is the first time he started to deal with injuries. That concerns me a little bit. He's getting close to 30. He'll turn 30 in November. Is this going to be a trend? Was it an outlier? I don't know. I think that money's probably going to have to go elsewhere. So I'm going to go lower on this and say about 25%.
Yeah, Dan, I'm going to go slightly higher than you, but still below that 50% threshold. I'll say about 40. And you kind of hit on it there. The age for me and the injuries kind of maybe, you know, who knows what's going to happen with that. And you're already looking at his year this year, fewest catches of his career, lowest yardage, touchdown total, all that stuff. So I just think that when you're in a situation like this, we've obviously talked so much about how we think the receiver room needs kind of a retooling. I do think it'll come down to money, kind of like Scott was saying. And obviously Jarvis Landry has meant so much to the turnaround of this franchise over the last few years. And obviously just the leadership and attitude even he brings is just as important, I think, as any production he had on the field. But at a certain point, like, you can't pay for the past, like, you have to be looking forward and what does this team need now? So ultimately it just might not be feasible, I think, for him to be here. And for all the positive stuff we heard, you know, the team, the organization, Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski say about Jarvis Landry, it's like, that also could just be, if he leaves and this was the last time they talked about him, it was an appreciation almost for him as well. It could be read that way, I think.